a town hall for today, August 17th, 2025. And we have a fantastic pair of featured guests on today's town hall. We have a progressive candidate running for governor of the largest state in the country, California. And it is the former state controller, Betty Yee, who will be joining us in the first hour as our featured guest. And in the second hour, we're going to have again somebody who we had on frequently, a long time ally and PDA partner, Erika Andiola, who is currently now the political director of NADLAN, the National Day Labor Organizing Organization. And she's going to talk not only about an update on the ICE raids around the country and the horrible human rights and civil rights violations taking place across the country as ICE is going through its aggressive roundups, but with a particular focus on how it is impacting DACA recipients, which is something that hasn't received a lot of press, but it's now a significant. It's in effect, and so she's going to tell us a story of again somebody who's been involved in activism and organizing that PDA has been involved in over the years, who is currently being held by ICE, even though she is a DACA recipient. So that is going to be in the second hour, and that's with Erika Andiola. We probably will have a little bit of an update from Hartzell Gray across the town hall. We'll hear briefly from him. A lot of people have been asking. He, of course, is the first candidate that PDA has endorsed for the 2026 federal election cycle, running as a progressive candidate in the Kansas City area. And the reason that we'll have just a very brief update from Hartzell is, of course, his campaign, and he himself is getting asked a lot about the prospect of redistricting in Missouri and how that will impact his campaign. Is right now, Missouri is one of the Republican-controlled states where odds are that this is going to be redistricted in time for the next election cycle, and so exactly what district he'll be running in will change. And of course, we in California, we're going to be facing that as well. So it's definitely going to be a year in which we're going to have to be on our toes about all in so many states of the 435 districts across the country, and what, of course, is our every other year national election for the U.S. House of Representatives. And of course, it looks like it's going to be the sort of signature federal political event of Trump 2.0 in the middle of his term, and very much definitional in terms of the status of our democratic constitutional republic. So things are crazy and getting crazier. So at this point in the town hall, of course, I usually talk about this or that issue that PDA is working on, that we're focused on. And again, this is something I probably said on a few of the town halls. It's very, very difficult to keep up and on top of everything that's transpiring. Every morning right now, when I wake up and I check the news headlines and I try to find progressive news sources and reliable news sources, the initial effect is just either some massive new impactful anti-constitutional action of the Trump administration is happening that is outrageous, or the things like today, where to me there were just three things that are just huge, massive, historical events, all of them horrible. That it's stunning to not think that you can just focus on this one or this other, and that tomorrow's going to be the same way, and the day after that's going to be the same way. I do want to start just quickly by highlighting that if you didn't think it could get worse in Gaza, the Israeli government is basically announcing its intention to actively forcibly displace 1 million people within Gaza, out of the north of Gaza into the south of Gaza, out of Gaza City, and they are solidifying and confirming this as what they intend to pursue. And I do wonder if one of the things that's informing their logic and their announcement of this right now is because the world's attention is focused on Ukraine, which if the Gordian knot of the Ukraine crisis couldn't be any trickier. If you thought that was the case before a couple of days ago, well, now here we are right now. And Donald Trump, who presents himself constantly to the whole world, to his followers, to everybody who opposes him as, the big strong man who's a strong leader who takes charge. I mean, more or less, we're now in this period before the meeting tomorrow in the White House with Zelensky and some European leaders that Trump has basically announced almost to a greater degree than you've almost ever seen the United States do in my lifetime to say, well, no, I'm going to let these guys figure it out and I'm stepping back. And of course, the central narrative coming out of the meeting in Alaska was that, Putin took the lead and Trump acquiesced. And then what that all means is very difficult to get a clear interpretation on it and where things stand. And going all the way back to the beginning of this crisis, I think we had David Swanson on as a guest, the great anti-war organizer, and I think he was very poignant in that first time on the town hall that we addressed Ukraine. The sad truth is that, especially when these things are happening so quickly, it's very, very difficult for anybody on the outside of those meetings to have much influence or impact, and that goes for the peace movement right now. And of course, we very much are committed to building as strong a peace movement as possible as it pertains not just to Ukraine, Gaza, but the whole world. And of course, we need to keep building that up as much as possible. And of course, I commend the people at our PDA End Wars and Occupation Issue Organizing Team. They had their monthly meeting yesterday. And if you're not signed up to that committee, I encourage people to sign up, because we at PDA have to try to build a stronger peace movement in the United States. With everything else going on in the world, we can't lose sight of that. And so, that's where we are with that. And the third thing that popped up, of course, is the compound effect, not only of the ICE raids, but of the occupation of American cities. Los Angeles down here, of course, experienced that a while ago in a different kind of way, but now in DC, and the numbers upon numbers of federal agents that are now on the streets of DC. And there was a very good segment, by the way, I found with our friend Barbara Lee on MSNBC today. You can find it on YouTube, for instance, where she's there with the mayor of Baltimore. Very, very solid expression of the response by some progressive mayors to what now they are anticipating, which is the appearance of National Guard troops in their cities to take the lead or sort of force the hand in terms of the policing of their cities, along with their police departments, as is happening in Washington, D.C. And of course, this is so unlike anything we've ever seen in my lifetime in the United States of America. It's completely outrageous. And I encourage people to check out that segment with Barbara Lee and the mayor of Baltimore. So as we always do on the town hall, we're going to hear in a moment from Donna Smith. And before we get to Donna, and after Donna, we'll hear from Mike Fowler, who will introduce Betty Yee. But before all of that, we go to Mike Fox with our PDA to-dos for this week. Mike Fox, take it away.
Minor tech challenges, my apologies. All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All righty. To-dos. Number one, I believe Donna had to drop off due to health concerns with her husband, and she sent us her best. And she'll no doubt be with us whenever the household situation allows for it. But good news. To-do number one, as always, every week, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific on Sunday, we come together to do what? Revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it here. Tough times we're in, there is no question. However, we can get through this, and we can make what needs to happen. But we're only going to be able to do it if we all show solidarity with each other, support each other. If you're commenting in the chat, please try to keep focused on inspiration for your siblings here on this call. We're here to get serious work done and to show solidarity with each other in that endeavor, okay? And I thank you all for being here. You make me literally healthier, just by virtue of the fact that you are here. To-do number two, take notes because we're going to have a lot of important stuff coming at you here with to-dos, deadlines attached to them. So let's make sure that you've got those notes and can pile on over the upcoming week, okay? Now, from a time and treasure standpoint, to-dos. Time, our number one ask is phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. Did I mention phone bank? If you are a phone banker, we've got a bunch of them here. Type in the chat that you are and entice folks to come on board because we've got a lot of projects going on right now, including a special election in Virginia where we got to hold on to a Democratic seat there, and there are events going on all over the country. I'll be tossing into the chat a to-do list that'll have a boatload of stuff. Click on that sucker and you'll be all up to speed. But bottom line, we're asking for just an hour. That's all we're asking for. So if you can invest an hour talking to PDA folks, making sure they know what's cooking, make sure they know they got to get out to vote, help us push that vote out, help folks get organized in events that are taking place across the country to push back, push back, push back, pile on. If you don't see the link in the chat, go to pdamerica.org/volunteer. If that's too long for you to remember, pdamerica.org. Just get there, hit action, and boom. Sign up for an hour, and we promise you it will be an effective use of your time. There are other volunteer opportunities there as well. But first and foremost, let's get talking to fellow PDA people to make sure that everybody is active, okay? And then from a treasure standpoint, while we take great pride in the fact that the majority of our work is done via volunteer labor. However, we do have to keep the lights on, and likewise, we would love to expand if we possibly can here, but that takes resources. So the goal here is solidarity. If you can toss in $100, wonderful. If you can only toss in $1, wonderful. Just bottom line, it's not a dollar figure so much as it is participation. Percentage of folks participating. Toss in a buck, 5, 10, 20, whatever you can do. And we'll be back at the top of the hour to see where we're at on our goals. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Mike Fox. And I'll try to take each week this opportunity to let people know that you're on the national town hall call that we have weekly at this time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, each Sunday. And it is hosted by Progressive Democrats of America. And each week we focus on a couple subjects, usually one in the first hour and a second one at the top of the second hour, most often with featured guests. And we have different subjects each week. So if you're on the call for the first time and maybe you're expecting us to talk about this or that subject that's in the news, it almost certainly will be brought up on a town hall in the coming weeks if it's not being focused on in that particular week. And of course, this week we are focusing on the largest state in the country, California, the fourth largest economy in the world if it was a country by itself. And we are honored to have the former controller and progressive candidate for the upcoming governor's election, Betty Yee, as our featured guest. Now, I do want to have a point of clarification here, which is that, of course, Progressive Democrats of America is a federal PAC. And however, in a number of states, we have registered PACs, state PACs, with the Secretary of States of the state in question. And we have that in California. So Betty Yee is, in fact, endorsed by our California PAC, Progressive Democrats of America, California. And with that said, I have one more thing, actually. When Betty is talking initially, and then up until where I ask a follow-up question of the featured guest, and this will be the same with Erika in the second hour, we will turn the chat off during that period. The chat will then be coming back on once we get to the Q&A section with audience, and you can ask questions by raising your hands and asking by voice questions of Betty Yee and Erika in the second hour. You can also then put questions into the chat. And we do this out of respect for our featured guests, that we turn the chat off while they are initially speaking, so that no one is distracted by the chat, which, as we all know, can be quite distracting on a 21st century problem, right? Okay, with that, to introduce Betty Yee, I am very happy to introduce Mike Thaler, who is the head of Progressive Democrats of America, California. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you. As is pointed out, I'm the president of PDACA, which is Progressive Democrats of America, California. We prefer to call it PDACA because it confuses everybody. Anyway, we're a state PAC dealing with California issues and the state candidates and state endorsements that we have a process for. I have come to know Betty Yee by being someone who's been a member of the California State Democratic Party, also known as CADEM, for over 20 years, and a member of its executive board and a caucus chair for most of those years. Betty was an elected member of the State Board of Equalization from 2004 to 2015 and a state controller from 2015 to 2023. And all that time, she was still active in CADEM and very approachable, which makes her a little bit different from a lot of office holders. In fact, she was also the female vice chair of CADEM, which made her a DNC member from 2021 until May of this year, when she did not run for reelection, no doubt, so that she could run for the to be the governor of California. She also will tell you her history of implementing the progressive policy, some progressive policies of the state, and working to implement some progressive policies for California Democratic Party, in spite of maybe a little friction from the chair of the Progressive Democratic Party, but you didn't hear that from me. The bottom line is that in all those years, she built a reputation for progressive leadership that we can all appreciate. A few years ago, though, PDACA started giving a Progressive Hero Award during a luncheon that we held during the CADEM annual conventions. Betty Yee was one of the first recipients for the reasons that I just mentioned. Last year, Betty let it be known that she was planning to run for governor, and it was suggested that PDACA endorse her. At first, we thought, the election's over a year and a half away. That seems a little early, but we gave it some thought and decided it would make sense to give an early endorsement to one of our first heroes. So we invited our 18,000 PDACA members. And by the way, if you are a member, in quotes, of PDA and you live in California, you are a PDACA member. So we invited our 18,000 PDACA members at the time. Now we have over 20,000 to what became a very well-attended statewide Zoom meeting. And it was an interview of Betty, and she easily convinced the audience that she would make an outstanding progressive governor. And I'm pretty sure she will convince you this afternoon of the same thing. Now, we kept a video of that interview and we put it on our PDACA YouTube channel. If you'd like to see it, start YouTube on any device, and in that YouTube search bar, type in PDACA channel, PDA-CA channel, and you'll see a big green circle with the white letter P in it, and select that, and you'll see a whole bunch of videos. Find the one that says Meet Betty Yee for Governor, PDACA, 12/4/24. So this was December 4th, 2024, and you'll see what I mean about her being a great progressive. I think by now you've heard enough from me. I don't want to take any more time away from Betty Yee. So let's hear from Betty Yee. So Betty, take it away.
Thank you, Mike, very much for the kind introduction, and to Alan as well. And it's such a pleasure to join all of you this afternoon. Look, with so much that is happening around our nation, certainly around the world, I'm just always so grateful that Progressive Democrats of America can have these weekly town halls just to certainly stay at the forefront of what is coming at us, but also how we continue to build this progressive movement. My background really is not uncommon with respect to many Californians. I'm a daughter of immigrants, born to parents from China. Didn't speak English until I entered public schools, big advocate of public schools, and never thought I would run for office, but for the fact that I really developed a facility working with numbers and budgets and understanding that money drives a lot of public policy, and it certainly drives our politics, unfortunately. So I put my hat in the ring to run for my first office, the State Board of Equalization, which is the only elected tax commission in the United States. And at the time that I ran, and we were also the tax appeals body for the state of California. Those duties have since changed, and but in that role, really had the opportunity to be sure that everyone was paying their fair share of taxes, and corporate accountability was a huge theme of my campaigns then. It continues to be a huge theme of my campaign now, with respect to understanding that we have an obligation to be sure that our corporations are playing by the rules and paying their fair share of taxes, and not really creating or exacerbating the situation of where we are seeing just a lot more inequities, just confronting our communities and certainly our state and country. I then ran for state controller, as Alan had mentioned, and in that race, I was outraised and certainly outmaneuvered in some ways by the establishment candidates. My biggest opponent was the then sitting Speaker of the Assembly, who outraised me about 2.5 to 1. But we ran a grassroots campaign. It's the way that I like to run campaigns. I always like being in communities and understanding the who and what I'm going to be representing, and having really a good knowledge of how communities are handling different challenges. But in that race, came in second. It was a top two primary race in June of that year, and secured the second spot by just 481 votes over the Assembly Speaker that year, and proceeded to the general election. Did serve 2 terms on the State Board of Equalization, and excuse me, 2 terms as controller. And one of the things I will say is this: these are roles that handle a lot of finances. We're stewards of our tax dollars. We have many levers for being sure that we can ensure and enforce corporate accountability, but also, frankly, government accountability. As Controller of California, we did quite a great deal to be sure that our state departments and agencies, as well as some of our local agencies, were directing dollars to where they were appropriately to go. And unfortunately, because we are a big state, and some of it intended, some of it not, just by way of operation with very inexperienced accounting and fiscal managers, was able to unearth just about $7.5 billion in public funds that were directed to unallowed uses. And so you begin to see that there's always room to look for being sure that our dollars are being directed to where they should be going. From the corporate standpoint, had major cases as I sat on the tax board, and I did sit on the tax board. I continue to sit on it when I became controller as the fifth voting member, and continue to hold our corporations accountable. Had a 10-year battle with Amazon to be sure that they finally were paying taxes that reflected their huge outsized presence here in California, including collecting and remitting sales tax from their customers here in California. Also, big appeals that we heard against some of the telecom companies, Comcast in particular, who wanted to recharacterize a lot of their income as non-business income to escape California taxation. And we were on the winning end of those cases as well. More recently, some of the investor-owned utilities wanted to be sure that the proceeds that they were receiving, certainly from the state and other sources, to minimize their liability against wildfires, would not be subject to tax. And there was never anything in the law, thank goodness, that allowed them to even make that consideration. And so we have ruled against the utilities with regard to that as well. But also say that these are watchdog functions, and this role will continue as I become governor, because I do believe that a good part of what it means to be a progressive is to be sure that we're enforcing accountability at all levels, between levels of government, within government, and also with our corporate sectors as well. This is a time when we're all just feeling very, very stretched. Look, there is nothing not under attack from this federal administration, and yet what I think about is just what is this going to look like if we ever get to a point of actually being able to conquer some of what's coming coming at us. And I do think that California is going to have an outsized role, certainly President Trump's target right now in terms of how to dismantle and divide communities, how to look at impinging upon our civil rights, particularly with respect to our immigrant communities, devaluing and dehumanizing communities like our transgender siblings. And I just look at this as a time where this is not just going to be about recovering from this time. It's going to be a time where we have to recognize that leadership will matter, that when we make changes and that when we look at how this never gets repeated again, that we have to be bold, that we have to think about, how we look at changes to our United States Constitution, including how we make changes to the United States Constitution. We can make constitutional amendments by the vote of the people here in California, and yet when you think about a federal constitutional amendment, that has to be subject to ultra super majorities of our Congress. And so I hope that we can begin to think more broadly about some of the anti-democratic provisions in our U.S. Constitution that continue to work against us. And I think about that a lot with respect to certainly being a woman and not even having the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution now, and the fact that we have just so many protections that are not there that should be enshrined that we have here in California. And I hope that we can be much more bold with respect to how we want to be fashioning the United States Constitution for hopefully a world that can be more sustainable and accepting and equitable here in the United States. I made a decision to run for governor because of because of what I have experienced in my upbringing here in California. I understand the everyday struggles of Californians, the idea that people really have to work hard to make ends meet. Working in my parents' dry cleaning business and taking care of the books, I saw that palpably, where there were weeks that we didn't have enough money to buy, food for the entire family. So we had to take shortcuts in terms of what we ate and how we were going to take care of ourselves. To serving as controller of California, being in every community in this state when I ran, and even after I was in office, to just see that we leave so many communities behind, left untouched and underserved, underrepresented, and certainly a lot of communities that are subject to really disproportionate burdens from an economic and environmental standpoint. And then now caring for an aging parent, the next one of the next economic crises that many Californians and Americans will be facing, and that is what do we do about this care sector that is really not equipped with reliable care, not because people don't want to do the work, but it's not been really viewed as being professional work, and it's been relegated to, frankly, a lot of lower income households who do the work, and many of those who do the work are mostly women, and women who are from communities of color. So, when we look at this, you just begin to see the inequities in every, single aspect of what's been happening in this economy. So I really want to run for governor because, frankly, I've never been beholden to special interests. I don't take fossil fuel money or any special interest money, tobacco, any of that. I'm a pro-labor candidate. And I've just seen on and on again just how our special interests do kind of line their pockets, and they leave the rest of us behind. And when I think about if we could have courage in our elected officials to where we can fight against that, maybe you take their money, but you at least have the guts to say no when it's the right thing to do. That would have gotten us so much further in terms of the ability for us to actually attain equity across the board within all of our communities. So I'm running to just hopefully begin to paint a different future for California. I think we have to lead by example with respect to what's possible for the United States. We have to have the ability to just begin to think about all the issues that are coming at us as not choices, but really choices, meaning we don't sacrifice something to be able to fight for something, but that we fight for something and continue to make progress on other things. So I always say that I never like being in situations where we're making either or decisions, but that we have to think about the possibility of both and decisions. And so we can have, really affordable electricity and still have a work towards a green economy. We can resist Donald Trump while at the same time building a California and a country that can be a place where people can afford to be and be successful. And so this campaign has been all about possibilities. It's been all about how we make sure that everybody has a place in this democracy. And when I define myself, people always say, gee, we didn't know you were a progressive. And I said, look at the way that I govern. I always think about I'm a stakeholder-driven leader, which means everyone gets a voice in how I make decisions, and this is what we have to model. And I really look forward to the opportunity to hopefully get a broad coalition of support for this campaign. It is a grassroots campaign. I'm very proud of my PDACA endorsement. It is one that has really propelled me to really begin to tell and inform my fellow elected officials we have a progressive state in California, and you wouldn't believe where the most progressive activists are. They're in the red and purple parts of our state because they have to work that much harder. So I'm just proud to be here. And I think, Alan, what I'd like to do is just turn it to questions because I can speak forever, but really I'd like the engagement. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. And yes, everyone. So we will turn the chat back on. Please raise your hand if you have a question. And I'll ask. Actually, I'm going to be selfish here and ask two questions at the top.
Sure.
Um, I'm not the hugest fan of Gavin Newsom, but I thought he had one of his best days ever 2 days ago. And he has obviously positioned himself as standing up against Donald Trump. And just your thoughts about becoming governor of California, even as you're in the, as one of the top tier candidates as well.
Yes.
This is probably the most diverse region in the history of humanity, California.
Yes.
We've never had a region this diverse. So on the one hand, just what would it mean in terms of the significance of you, not only as a woman of color, but as an immigrant woman of color, to
Yes.
stand up to Donald Trump in this context? That's question one. And I'll be selfish and throw out question two as well. California had, for decades upon decades, had been seen around the world, not only as this incredible, as a beautiful place that had, from the outside, people idealized it as a society. It obviously became the largest state in the country, the richest state in the country. Then Silicon Valley happened, and it becomes so much wealth is generated here. It's off the charts. I'm not going to ask about how to contend with the oligarchs of Silicon Valley. That may come up later. But California's reputation in the past couple decades, especially around affordability, has sort of damaged the reputation of the state. Do you believe there's enough money in this state that progressive governance can return California to being once again a beacon for the world in terms of a prosperous middle class society with strong social services and a great place that everybody will envy the people who live here, like has so long been the case?
Right.
So the two questions.
Okay, great. So first of all, let me talk about the significance of the race. Certainly, as a woman of color, one of the things that I think we've not done well, we're the fourth largest economy in the world, and when people tout that, I often retort, well, then we need to begin to act like it. When you peel that back, so many Californians are struggling, but we're also not acting like a global economy. Look, I know that during this time, certainly as our president's popularity is not the greatest in certain parts of the world. There are parts of the world that want to do business with California. And putting the tariff situation aside, I do think that when we talk about, whether it's multilateralism, or international cooperation, we need to be in that space. We're innovators. There are many who still want to do business with California. Part of how we're going to get out of the current crisis, you asked about revenue, we still have to continue to grow our economy, but in a way where we can actually provide opportunity for everyone in the state. I just came back from a visit to the North State, and I will tell you that there is so much happening up there with respect to economic activity. They really are trying to be the leaders of forest health and take care of our environment, especially now while the federal government has abandoned, a lot of that stewardship. And so, just looking at things like that, where I do think that those are things that the state can help stand up. We need to look at our tax system in terms of how we can actually have it work for more social equity and opportunity. These are our tax system right now has a lot of benefits that go to those who frankly don't need it. And yet, I think when we talk about even housing and how we're going to build sustainable communities, we have to have a tax system that is going to incentivize business development in a responsible way. And responsible meaning that help us achieve that triple bottom line. Business development should be helping us solve our climate crisis. Business development should be helping us deal with our social equity concerns. Business development should be helping us create entrepreneurship opportunities for all of our communities. And so, these are triple bottom line things that I think in theory people understand, but we have not practiced at all. And then with respect to just kind of this whole issue of enough revenue. I will say that we're going to need to generate more revenue. If there's anything I've learned about what's happened with this Trump administration, we're not resilient or prepared enough to deal with any more that comes at us. Look, I'm hopeful that we can change the House of Representatives, get the majority back so we can stave off the Medicaid hits. But but at the same time, we need to be sure that we are growing our economy, becoming more fiscally and financially resilient from the federal government, keeping more of our revenues here, and looking at those opportunities. And this is where I do want to do business with other parts of the world. There are things that are on the public coffers that I think can be privatized in a good way. And I'll just give you one example: high-speed rail. There's no way that the public sector is going to be able to finance that whole project. So how do we finance it to where it actually does help us create business opportunities? How do we finance it to where we have investors who care about paying living wages, who care about employing union workers, who care about being sure that the way that it's operated and maintained, that we still have the state overseeing things like safety and just all of those kinds of protections. And I say that because Japan is undergoing its high-speed rail 2.0 stage right now. That's exactly what they're doing. No one's complaining about how much they're getting paid. They're building business corridors around where the train is traveling, and so it's always been the model. And yet, why haven't we reached out to think about how to be in partnership with some of these entities that know how to do this, and responsible entities who know how to do this before this all gets picked up by private equity, who will help us with the financial aspect of the system, but are not going to think about the long-term consequences with respect to the issues of social equity and equality.
Well, thank you so much. And we'll go to the stack right now of questions. We have so many people on stack, so please try to keep it within a minute, and there'll be a little beeper going off after a minute. And Jerry, you'll be second on stack, but let's go to Dorothy right at the top. Dorothy, my friend, how are you doing?
Hi, Dorothy.
Please unmute, Dorothy. Oh, we heard you for a second, Dorothy. Unmute again, Dorothy. Dorothy, please unmute. You got it right there. There you go. You're up, Dorothy.
Am I unmuted now?
You
Yeah.
are. We
We can hear
you.
you. Yes.
Hi, Betty. It's
Hi,
so
Dorothy.
good to hear from you. And you have so much information that you give so quickly. It's hard to wrap our minds around it, but we know that we can count on you to be the progressive in this race and to protect us and protect our rights and protect our environment, protect our state. And I just want to give a wholehearted endorsement to Betty. All my questions for Betty have been answered long ago. And I just want us all to work hard, raise money, talk to our friends. Betty's name has name recognition, but not enough. We have some national figures trying to run for governor in our state who don't know anything about the state government and have no business running for governor at all. And they're getting support, and we need to counter that, and we need to all be talking and letting people know that Betty is the one. So please, everybody who's in California, and even if you're not, if you have friends in California, call them. Okay. Thank you, Betty, for everything you've done.
Thank you, Dorothy. Appreciate you.
And Betty, maybe you can give out the website for your campaign if
Sure. Very easy. Just bettye.com.
great. Jerry Toad, please unmute Jerry. You're up.
The state of California gets billions of dollars from the oil and gas industry, so there's a conflict of interest between the state and controlling the oil and gas industry in the state. How do you plan to approach that?
Well, one thing we have to do is to get back on track in terms of accelerating the development of our renewable economy. This has been put on hold for a number of reasons, particularly with this governor, and whether it's just trying to kind of I guess distract us with respect to wanting to enter into a regional electricity market, things like the blackouts that we had over a year ago, where I think there's just a sense that there's a lot of insecurity relative to our energy market now. And so here's my view. Like I said, I'm a stakeholder-driven leader. we're going to have partners in terms of how we move the state forward, including a lot of the Western states, I think even other countries, but we have to start moving into a renewable economy. And yes, it's going to be more expensive at the outset while we have this transition, but we need to be able to develop an economy where we get good returns on our investments to being sure that our clean energy sources are being developed with much more urgency. So this will mean that a lot of our oil and gas production and facilities will be ceasing at some point, but we also need a very transparent plan about how that is going to happen, when that is going to happen, and having targets set for how that's going to happen, and have consequences from when that does not happen. And so those are the things that we've not had. We have very great, lofty environmental goals here in California. Carbon neutrality by 2045, no gas-powered electric vehicles by 2035. But when you look at whether there's a plan to help us get there, it's very lacking.
Carolyn Stapleton, please unmute.
Hi. Hi, Betty, it's Geraldine. First of all, I want to thank you for being here and mentioning the Equal Rights Amendment that's currently on hold, waiting to
Yes.
be published and become law. But my question is in regards to peace. HR 1111 is the now authored by Representative Omar, and we have 39 co-sponsors. That is the bill that would establish a U.S. cabinet level, a Department of Peace Building. And the question is, do we have your support for that?
You do have my support, Geraldine. You and I have talked about this over the years, and at first, when we spoke about it, I don't know that I understood the enormity of the impact of having a cabinet level office for peace. It ties into so many things, including our climate crisis, our national security, and all the interrelationships of, frankly, so many of our crises to peace, not just here in the United States, but globally. And so, yes, I would support it. I do support it.
Thank you. And again, by the way, I should have said earlier, of course, in having Betty Yee on and focusing on California politics, clearly in the Trump era, which even if we do in the House of Representatives, not a lot of progressive legislation is going to pass through the federal government. And we could have 2 years where California can really lay out a vision of a progressive future for the world, right? And in a way that could really resonate around the world and around the country. And so we recognize this at PDA that there should be a greater focus on state and local in this period where so little can be moved forward in the federal government at a progressive level. So we are leading with the largest state in the country with Betty as a gubernatorial candidate. Tyler Putnam, you're up and unmuted. Your question for Betty E.
Well, I have basically two questions. One, what are you going to do about the redistricting thing talking about California? And then second, were you always controller of your last office?
Sure, thank you. I was, let me start just quickly with your second question.
Hold on one second, Betty, if I could interrupt. Could we please, staff, if we could shut down the chat again? And I apologize to everybody, but we do have somebody. The reason you don't see anyone else's video is because we've been Zoom bombed on this. And maybe Betty should understand this too, because it's something that
Yeah.
Zoom definitely needs some improvement on this. But we are right now being Zoom bombed. This is why the video is off. We're going to continue, but please shut down the chat so it can't be viewed by anybody. And sorry to interrupt, Betty. Take it away. Thank you.
Okay. Tyler, I served as controller from 2015 to 2020, just the beginning of 2023. I am termed out, and in the interim period, I've been doing some teaching, but really just giving the campaign full attention, running a grassroots campaign. And I'm sorry, I was distracted. And
Yeah, I'm so
the first
sorry.
part of your question.
Tyler, please.
Number one had to deal with redistricting of
Oh,
California.
yes, thank you, thank you.
Relationship to Texas.
Yes. So obviously this kind of mid-decade redistricting issue that we're steeped in right now is in response to what Texas is doing. And I agree with Gavin Newsom about this. Frankly, I applaud him for just, stepping into this. It's high stakes. But I will be darned if California or any other blue state is going to be dictated by what a state like Texas is going to do in terms of redistricting, kind of midway, and having an impact with respect to who's going to be well, actually diminishing even the representation that Democrats can have in our Congress. So I'm in for the fight. We are spreading the word about what this means. And I think for those who really want to continue to see an independent commission and are purists about it, need to kind of wake up and see that we are under fire and we have to, as the governor said, fight fire with fire.
Heidi, please unmute. And Lorna, you'll be next.
Hi, good to talk with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being here. Hard to ask a little bit, but because I don't want to I don't want to typecast somebody. But anyway, what is your position on human rights in China and how that relates to California's trade policy?
Yeah. I'm with descendants from China. I am not, I'm very concerned about human rights in China. It is something that I think has frankly set the country back in terms of certainly the relations with the United States and certain parts of the world. I think with respect to our relationship with China, I mean, there are, look, I'm going to say this, and this is just the reality. I don't know that any global economy can get away with not having some relationship with China. I mean, they are the powerhouse. They know how to, albeit they don't follow regulations. They have bad human rights, records, all of that. But they are a global economy and a powerful economy that we're all going to need to just figure out what our ultimate relationship with them is. Having said that, I do think we have some more lots of latitude to insist on what we would expect with respect to some of the human rights violations we've seen there. And I hate to say this, but I think some of the corporate presence that we have from the United States into China exacerbates that. And I would hope that we would have better corporate partners and responsible corporate partners who are doing business in China that can help facilitate that conversation, hopefully to get to a point of where we can get some improvements with respect to human rights violations.
Lorna, please unmute. Lorna Farnham.
Aloha. I
Oh.
I lived in California for many, many decades. My question is Katie Porter got in the governor's race very early, and she kind of backed away a little bit when Kamala might get in. I think Katie Porter's back in, and she's very progressive. What makes you a better candidate than Katie Porter?
Sure. No, thank you for the question. Look, we have a lot of talent in this race. I am the only woman with statewide elected experience, the only woman who served as an executive. We need a strong executive at the helm of the governor's office. I think my track record speaks for itself in terms of every vote I've taken, every action I've led, every advocacy that I've led speaks to my progressive credentials. If there's been disagreement with the progressive community about it, it usually has been over either funding, financing, or just something that has gotten in the way. And so I'm very clear about where I stand on this. I'll also say this. We, being a progressive is also about how we make progress. And I love Congresswoman Porter when she served in Congress. She did a remarkable job in terms of calling out just our corporate giants who definitely were just having an outsized role with respect to how they are trying to control the country. But the role is different as governor. You need an executive who understands how to bring people to the table, how to really exact, just results. And at the end of the day, really what we're doing is two things. One, yes, we are fighting back against Trump, and I think each of the candidates have a way of doing this. I actually want to do it both frontally as well as being smart about how we build allyship across the world so that we continue to grow as an economy and have more opportunities created for our people here in California. But secondly, it is also about just being able to deliver for the people of California who are struggling right now every single day. And I know Katie understands those struggles. She has lived with that. She's a single mom, and I am so appreciative of what she brings to that conversation. But at the same time, she doesn't have state government experience, and this is a complex state. And things that I think she has been familiar with in terms of what Congress can do and the levers it has are different here in California. And so I believe I bring that experience and really understand the underpinnings of how state government works better among all the candidates.
Thank you so much. Melissa Richardson, you're up next.
Hello. Thank
Hello.
you. Thank you for having me all. And okay, I'm a disabled American. So what is your policy, Ms. Yee, on disabled, ADA and disability rights?
Well, the policy is that we should be enforcing it. For so many of the rights that we've been able to attain for many of our communities, I don't believe that there's been enough teeth in terms of enforcing them. I also think that certainly as an elected official and as a public official, I have always tried to have at the table representation from all of our communities, including those who are living with disabilities. And so you can ensure, I can guarantee there will be appointees in my administration who will give voice to the community who are living with disabilities. And then lastly, I will say that we have to be the model here in California. As Alan said, we may be fighting all of what this administration is dishing out to California and the rest of the nation for quite some time, even after he leaves office. And so, how are we going to rebuild the federal agencies that have been hollowed out? How are we going to look at being sure that our federal laws and enforcement have teeth? And I think the way we do that is to be sure that we don't do the same thing of dismantling our capacity here in California to enforce those laws and to, again, be the model for how the rest of the country can rebuild and certainly how the federal government can rebuild its capacity for being sure that all of our communities are protected.
Thank you so much. And Rosa Colquitt, if you can unmute, and then we will go to Kay after Rosa. But Rosa, please unmute. Welcome, Rosa.
Thank you, Alan. I was just about to put my hand down because I had two questions, and I think both of them have been touched on. One was the redistricting issue in Texas. I think that one has already been answered. I have a kid in school there, so thank you, Betty, for touching on that issue. And the other had to do with the ERA.
Yes.
I came on a little late. I think you all already responded to that. So
Yes.
I want to thank you for touching on such a wealth of issues today and to wish you the best in the race. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you, Rosa. And Kay McGowan, please unmute.
Hi, I am not a Californian. I find this very interesting though, and I always enjoy listening to other states and what's going on. I just had a quick question because I'm not real familiar with California politics. I'm not even sure when your governorship race is. I would assume 26.
Yes.
But my biggest question is also, how large is your field, and is the field set already, or are there still candidates coming in? And I will say that I am from a state with a Democratic governor. I wish we could do redistricting. I'm very much in support of doing that because of what's going on right now. Otherwise, we don't even have fair districting, a commission. I wish we did. But we have a Republican Senate at our state level, so that none of that will ever happen. So anyway, I wish you the best of luck. If I was in California, I probably would vote for you.
Thank you, Kay. Kay, where are you from? What state?
Pennsylvania.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for all the outside work you do there. Let me just say the campaign for governor, the primary election is in June of next year, the first Tuesday of June in 2026. And we do have a top two primary system, regardless of party. And the top two candidates who earn the most votes will proceed to the general election in November. The field is quite crowded now. It is an open seat. Governor Newsom will be termed out. And we right now have about 8 Democrats and I believe 2 or 3 Republicans. Among the Democrats, we have our former Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. We have former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. We have a former, well, actually current Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurmond, former Congressman Katie Porter, former President Pro Tem from San Diego Tony Atkins. We have oh gosh, I'm sure I'm missing a few, but anyway, there are about eight Democrats and two known Republicans now. Steve Hilton, you've probably seen him as a Fox commentator, but and also Chad Bianco, who was a Riverside County sheriff, very much in the MAGA frame of mind.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a very peculiar race. And Caruso, what's your thoughts on him? Do you think he'll get in?
You know, my sense is that everything that I've seen of him, he's been very focused on Los Angeles and
Yeah.
more local issues, certainly particularly after the wildfires. So I'm not sure, but I expect that the field will continue to shift. And maybe on that, Alan, I'll just give a little flavor in terms of our path to victory. Look, reminds me very much of my first race for controller. I ran against the Speaker of our Assembly, who outraced me 2.5 to 1. We ran a grassroots campaign. We went to all 58 of our counties and just earned the votes and ended up really earning the trust and confidence of people given my experience. Now, we are going to raise enough. And we also have, I believe, being the only Asian Pacific Islander on the ballot gives us a good portion of the electorate. We have very good polling numbers always with the 65 and older demographic. I've been on the ballot many times. There's a particular trust of somebody who handles money. So we feel good about that. And then, of course, the progressive community. And so this is very doable. It's very doable. That what we need to do is to continue to elevate our presence and to be known throughout the state. And I'm doing that really just with direct voter contact as much as I can, but certainly through all of you and your support. And Padaka has been tremendous in that effort.
Yeah, and of course, people probably know that Vice President Harris chose not to run in the race, which is, of course, considered to open up the race very much. And then probably below the radar screen, except here in California, the lieutenant governor, really was a surprising move, dropped out of the race as well. And in some regards, that opens up a lane for Betty in terms of some of what she described in terms of her pathway to victory. She just described Eleni Kouvalakis would have competed in some of those fields. And so with her not in the race, again, my analysis is there is exactly what Betty said, a path here.
Yeah. And I think more significantly with the lieutenant governor, she had the ability to self-finance her candidacy. So
oh yeah,
yeah,
that too.
Yeah.
Neil Penn, please unmute. Go ahead, Neil. Neil, can we not hear you? I'm embarrassed to say that I can't remember if I already called on Edie. So Edie, please unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
I can.
Edie.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, how do you feel about the single payer to the state?
Sure. Yes, I am a supporter of single-payer healthcare. And this is another one of these issues with Trump in office. We're not going to be able to make a lot of headway with respect to the federal waivers that are going to be required for us to move to a single unified financing system for healthcare. But the work in California continues. And by that, I mean our Department of Healthcare Services is putting together the services plan so that the public understands under a single payer system the exact kind of services that would be provided under that, and just so it's very transparent about what the services and care would be. And then, as I said, a lot of this will require federal waivers to do, but I also think there's an opportunity. Frankly, if we have to look at how we're going to sustain or absorb the Medicaid cuts, Medi-Cal in California, I do believe there's an opportunity to look at how we rebuild our healthcare system to where we can begin to incorporate some of the single payer aspects of this. And because I do know that particularly for some of the areas that have particular access issues to healthcare, which we're continuing to work on as we look at transitioning to a single payer system, I think we might be able to some of that work if we actually are having to look at how we rebuild our healthcare system for all of California after the Medi-Cal cuts.
I'd like to take 2 more questions. I know we might run over the hour just a little bit. Is that okay if you're 2-3 minutes late, Betty? Is that okay?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. We'll go to Neil and then we'll go to Barbara Wimsatt. Neil, you were unmuted. That's why I had to mute you again because I could hear you. Now go ahead, Neil. Neil, well, you look like you're unmuted, so we should be able to hear you. I think you're having trouble with your mic on your end. Try to be quiet and stay in there, and I'll call you in a second. Let's go over to Barbara Wimsatt for Barbara, if you could unmute.
Yeah, I think about the fact that, many countries do not have, have healthcare systems that are in place and do not have to struggle with it the way we do here. But, I'm also in line with that. Back to our interventions in Ukraine. So many people feel that the Russians started this, and that is an absolutely false belief that
do you have a question for Barbara? Do you have a question for Betty?
Yes. So how do you see the interaction between the billions we're spending on unnecessary wars and the money that we need for people here at home?
Thank you, Barbara.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you. This is exactly kind of on point with respect to how I hope that we all look at ourselves as progressives, that, when we think about how we can be champions of human rights, and certainly not just here, but around the world, that we are putting our money where our mouth is on that, frankly. And look, I mean, with respect to Ukraine and Russia, I mean, we've seen what the president's trying to do here. And frankly, I think he's given a lot of room to Mr. Putin. But I hope that can come to some agreement with respect to that war ending soon. And I don't pretend to know the particulars of what has been exchanged in those meetings. But the one that I have a particular sense of priorities about, and that is the Israel-Gaza war. We know exactly what the Prime Minister's intention is here. I have consistently called for a ceasefire since the beginning of the October 7th war when that broke out. And if you are a humanitarian of any degree, you would understand that no dollars should be directed towards the annihilation of a people who have a right to be in their land.
Thank you for that beautiful statement, Betty. And Neil, again, we're going to try you one more time, Neil Penn, up there in our state to the north. Okay, we should hear you. It says you're unmuted, Neil. I heard you earlier. Oh, alas. Neil, we'll pick it up after the hour, maybe in family time, and we can forward your message to Betty Yee. As for everybody else on stack, first of all, I want to apologize. It was a little tricky on the back end here with us getting Zoom bombed while this happened. We handled it, I think, very seamlessly, other than my mentioning it. And of course, I do apologize to everybody on the call for the period the chat was still visible and we were being Zoom bombed. I apologize for all of that. And Betty Yee, your final thoughts for today.
Look, my final thoughts are this. I hope that when voters go to the polls from this point on, that they realize what is at stake. And even though California may feel insulated from what is happening with respect to the rest of this country, it is clear that this administration has California as a target. And if we are not stepping up to the plate, including how we are going to stand up for our state workforce, whom I addressed yesterday, as now the new backstop for all of our protections and rights, with our federal agencies hollowed out, and frankly, just no sense of responsibility about upholding those rights and responsibilities. If we don't look at reining in corporate accountability and certainly government accountability at all levels, we are going to be looking at the financial resources that we do have to work with, frankly, just slip through our hands. If we don't keep our eye on the prize with respect to just the constitutional issues that we are going to need, that are going to continue to be attacked, and how I always like to think that, we have the ability to control what's in front of us, but we also have the tremendous ability to look at the future and what's going to sustain us for the long term. So we have to be smart about how we work. And this is going to be an election about, frankly, how we are going to uplift California for everyone. The theme of my campaign is how to make California add up for everyone, and we can do that. And we are going to do that. And we're going to do it in a smart way that helps us also make progress with respect to our climate crisis, that helps us make progress with respect to our civil rights and human rights, that helps us make progress with respect to economic and social justice. And so all these things that have been a part of the progressive agenda for a long time, we now have to deliver, and we now have to just, like I said, not just put our money where our mouth is, but to really be sure that everyone is a part of what we do to lift up California. So I just want to thank all of you, Alan, to you for all of your stalwart leadership of this for so many years. Michael, thank you, and look forward to just hopefully earning the support of all of you along the way. And thank you again for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you so much, Betty. It's been fantastic having you, and look forward to working together in the coming months and onwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, Betty.
Thank you. And look, I'm going to ask maybe Mike Fox to come forward and look, as you know, we're not in family time at PDA, but we're very much a family here at PDA, where people are new to the call or new to PDA with attending this call today. We are what's seen as understood in our name, a progressive organization involved in American electoral politics and general politics and social concerns and considerations across the board for the whole country, at the state and local level as well, of course, and of course global politics. But we are very much like a non-conflictual organization. We really lift up all voices from the grassroots up. And when you're a member of PDA, we want you to feel empowered and have your voice heard. So it pains us a little bit to go through what we do with the Zoom bombing, that we can't see your faces anymore on the video. We wish we could see it. And we have to be rather strict about, who we call on. And in this context this week where we can see the evidence of us being attacked over the Zoom digital interface. So Mike Fox, I just want to ask you, before you go over our PDA to-dos at the top of the hour, and then I'll introduce Dan O'Neill and hopefully Erika Andiola. How's it looking on the back end? The thing seems safe. And of course, I'm curious if Erika was able to make it into the call. Mike.
Yes, Erika
I'm
is
here.
here.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
She's cranking. And yeah, I mean, gang, here's the deal. We have had to dance a thin line, balancing how open and welcoming and participatory we can make these meetings. And we always, first and foremost, want our people to connect. And an open chat is part of that. And the ability to ask questions is part of that, and etc. Right? Well, in today's world, it's just unfortunate that there are people who live for upsetting our apple cart in that regard. So I want to apologize to anyone, excuse me, who was in any way upset by what they saw in our chat. It certainly is not okay by our standards, and we will do everything in our power to ensure that everyone here is safe and the energy is always positive, 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 and supportive. And I thank everybody on this call. And I'm showing right now solidarity with all my siblings who don't have cameras on right now. I purposely don't have a camera on right now, simply showing that solidarity. But let me quickly go through the positive energy of my favorite job of the week, and that's my thank yous. The following folks have donated today. Thank you so much, Nadine and Maxine and phone banker Jane, double dipping, and Margaret and phone banker Betsy, double dipping, and Neil and Valerie, Douglas, Dorothy. As always, thank you for your more than kind $100. If anybody can match that, that would be a wonderful thing. But if not, totally cool. And then thank you, Kay, and thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you, Michael, and thank you, Robert, and thank you, Lorna, thank you, phone banker Aaron, and phone banker William, and Debbie, and Michael, phone banker double dipping Dr. Deutsch out of Pennsylvania, and Susan, and double dipping Dr. Sonnenborn out in California, and Beverly double dipping, and Amy. All these folks have donated today. I'm going to toss into the chat the link for that. And likewise, I want to thank everyone who has volunteered. I'm just going to check that really quick. And we're a little bit short on volunteers, which is totally understandable because we had an absolutely wonderful engagement with Betty Yee and everybody who was focused on that. So we need 10 more folks, minimum 10 more folks to stand up for an hour over the upcoming week, preferably doing some phone banking with us. So I'll toss that link into the chat. And then once we hit family time, we'll dive headlong into some other goals that we have for this day. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Michael Fox. And I just got a note from Hartzell, and he will not be able to join us. Oftentimes he is on call time as a candidate on Sundays, but in fact, while he assures me everything will be okay, he just had to bring his fiance to the ER, who is not feeling great, but he's confident she'll be okay. So I don't believe he'll be able to join us this week. And with that, we're going to now turn our focus on to something that we very much want to always stay on top of while this is all unfolding, which is the attack on our working class siblings who do so much of the essential labor in our society, new immigrants to the country who are under siege because of the racist and reprehensible and anti-constitutional actions of the Trump administration and the expansion of ICE. And to give us an update on that, and also to let us know how it's impacting, and it is impacting, and something we need to all be aware of, DACA recipients. I'm going to hand off to Dan O'Neill, who will introduce our esteemed guest, Erika Andiola. Dan.
Thank you, Alan. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, great. Yes, it's all of us on this call, and I thank everyone for being here. Every day see across the country the horrible images of and the attacks and the arrest and detention of our immigrant friends, our neighbors, and it's got to the point where we need to do everything we possibly can to amplify, to help, to be solid advocates. And I just wanted to take a minute here to introduce my good friend, Erika Andiola. Erika has been in the fight for so many years here in Arizona as part of the Arizona Dream Act Coalition, as she was the Latino press secretary for Bernie Sanders back in 2016. She was the political director for Our Revolution. Erika has been in the fight for the last 15 or more years, worked with immigration rights organizations like Raíces and the Young Center. She is now the political director of the National Day Laborers Organizing Network, and they are in the forefront of this fight. So with that said, I know Erika is going to be talking about an important case dealing with a friend of all of ours here, Cata Santiago, one of the Dream 7, which Erika was part of. Wow, it's December 2017. It seems like just yesterday, but it's been that many years, and PDA was part of that fight, part of that campaign. So Erika is going to tell us all about that and many of the vigils and things that are going to be going on around the country to support Cata Santiago. So with that, go ahead. Erika Andiola, thank you for being here today. And I know you're so busy.
Thank you, Dan. No, not at all. I love joining you all. I am always happy to be here with my PDA family. How much time do I have?
As long as you want.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right. You're all staying here the entire day with me. No, I'm just joking. I'll try to make it fast.
No.
Yeah. So I wanted to, well, I'm gonna give you all just a sense of just broadly what we're seeing with DACA recipients right now, and then specifically to speak to what Dan was talking about with our friend Cata or Xochitl Santiago. But just in general, we are seeing this sort of disturbing, really sad trend of more and more DACA recipients being detained and arrested and then detained by Border Patrol. Mostly Border Patrol. There's been some ICE arrests as well. But here in Arizona, what we have been seeing is several DACA folks who have been detained in Yuma, which is, closer to the border. And what we are assuming, one of our theories here is, and it's not completely proved yet, but we really think this is happening is that there's a high likelihood that Border Patrol is being given the directive to basically ignore the protection for DACA recipients, which for those of you who don't really have much of a sense of what that looks like is basically if you do qualify for DACA, if you were able to win or get the protection, you are eligible to have a work permit for 2 years. So if you have a work permit for 2 years, you can get a driver's license. So, which is also for 2 years. So if you're driving around, you can show the police your driver's license. What we're seeing in some of these cases is that some of those folks have been specifically stopped by Border Patrol, not necessarily the police. Border Patrol directly stopping them. And when these DACA recipients have said that they have DACA, basically they are ignored and they are still taken into custody. So right now, at least here in Arizona, we know of 2 cases for sure. I mean, there are a lot more, but we are working with, there are 2 cases of 2 DACA recipients who have 0 criminal background. There's really nothing that they should be detained for, but they're still in detention for more than a week. So we're still trying to figure out why that is or what's going on, but definitely is, like I said, a disturbing trend that we're seeing. And one of our friends, some of you have been involved for many, many years and maybe remember me and a few of my friends from an action that we did back in 2017 when we were trying to pass the DREAM Act through the reconciliation bill. And we did this action where we went to Senator Schumer's office and we sat in his office asking them to push the DREAM Act forward through the reconciliation, through the budget bill. We were arrested, we were sent to jail, and we did what you called we called it a jail strike. Basically, we didn't give our names for several days. So we spent about 6 or 7 days, I can't remember anymore, in jail. We all had DACA, but we knew that, I mean, we had a lot of support, a lot of legal support, and everything, we came out of jail, everything was fine. And we didn't even get a criminal conviction from it. We were told to do volunteer work and we were fine. Now, one of those folks, one of those 7 DACA recipients, her name is Cata Santiago, who now goes by Xochitl. Unfortunately, she was just traveling out of El Paso where she lives now. She was trying to board a flight, went through the checkpoint, and as soon as she went through the checkpoint, she was flagged to Border Patrol. Border Patrol showed up. She showed her DACA card, her driver's license, and they still decided to take her in. So Gata has been in detention now in El Paso for over 2 weeks. Today is actually the 2-week mark. She was detained in last Sunday. No, 2 Sundays ago. And like we have seen in many other cases, is that even though she has no convictions, she has never been convicted of any crime, they're making up lies about her. They DHS released a statement basically saying that she was in detention because of trespassing and a few other things which are not the truth. They're not true. But that's what they do now, right? They try to make or create a narrative on people violating their due process, violating their constitutional rights. So what can you do? What can we all do? So a group of us, Kata is very loved. She has been organizing for years. And some of you who might not know about her, she is a DACA recipient, but she also came to this country as a child. And as soon as she came, when she was 9 years old, she started working in the farms, in the fields, So she was a farm worker as a child. And because she was a farm worker, she started advocating for farm workers and immigrants since she was very, very young. When she was 18 years old, she was already getting arrested and civil disobedience actions to push for the rights of her family and herself. So right now, she needs us. She needs us to continue to advocate for her release. And this is where the call to action for you all comes in. We are asking everybody, one, to sign her petition. We're going to be sent, Dan. Oh, thank you, Dan. He's putting some links in the chat. Please sign her petition. And then we're also asking everyone to either attend a vigil that's already happening in your area. So Dan sent the link to Mobilize. If you see a vigil happening in your area, we would love to have you attend those. I'm organizing one here in Phoenix with PDA. But if you don't have one in your area and you would like to put together a vigil, you can register your event also there on Mobilize, and you're going to find a toolkit that walks you through what the messaging is, and then also just some tips on how to put together a successful vigil. Honestly, you don't need a lot to put together a vigil. You just need a group of people. So if you have a group of people, you are organized, or you have family members or friends who are supportive of this issue, get them together, even if it's 10 people, and put together a vigil for Kata, take photos, and if you want to also invite some media to let them know about her story and who she is, because we have to tell her story and not let them create the narrative of who Kata is. It's very important that we do that. So I will leave it there. I know there's so much going on the immigration enforcement front. I would stay here probably for hours if I was to go through everything, but I wanted to emphasize right now the Kata story, and also just what's going on with Dreamers, DACA recipients across the country. Thank you, and I'll pass it back.
Oh, no, thank you. And we'll have questions for Erika in a second. Now, I know this is the people whose hands were on stack. And please, let's, if you have a question or want to comment on something else, we'll hold that to family time, but questions for Erika in a moment. Just in terms, I have a few questions. And by the way, Dan, were you able to add I saw you put the link into for Mobilize to sign up to do a vigil. If you can get the link in for the petition, that would be great too.
I'm trying to find it now, and I'm old and having a difficulty. No,
we love you,
Erika. If you have it, throw that in there too. I just wanted to emphasize that cities like El Paso, Dallas, Philadelphia, Denver, they're happening. So yes, join one or organize one yourself. Yeah.
I was curious about who has been able to be in touch with Kata in this circumstance. Erika.
Yeah, sorry, this
Yeah.
thing just muted me automatically for some reason. Well, she's had contact with her attorney. She's got an amazing group of attorneys now who are working on her case. She is also I haven't, but some of our friend organizers have been able to get on the phone with her. And if you all want to follow some of what's going on, including a poem that she wrote from detention, which is very, I mean, I cried just reading it, not just because she's talking about her own experience right now being in a detention center, but also she is basically painting a picture of how things are looking in there for everybody, which is horrible, horrendous conditions. Just go to on Instagram. If you all have Instagram, the page is Free Gata. It's Free Gata Now. So Gata is just basically CATA. So Free Gata Now. You can find her page on Instagram, and you will see her poem, and you will also see updates of her case as things move along. But yeah, she's very strong. She had like the 7 of us who went into jail because we wanted to make a statement. We're courageous, we're strong, but I know she's also struggling. And she said it in the call that she had with organizers. So keep her in mind.
And she's being held with the large pool of detainees that ICE are sweeping up.
Yeah, in El Paso. Yeah, and it's I mean, every single detention center is horrendous, but that one is also particularly bad.
No, thank you for that. And I encourage. Now, I'm not a general Instagram user, but sorry, everybody probably thinks I need to be, which is probably true. But I contain my social media usage because it just can take up so much of my time. But I will certainly get on that. And so it's Free Kata Now on Instagram. And I do very much encourage people. We obviously for this particular case, and of course, because it's a DACA recipient as well, though, solidarity with all the people being held there, to have somebody who, per Erika's description, is obviously a very eloquent person, and to have us have a better understanding of what is going on here. It's not just going on, in our name, all of us who are U.S. citizens. This is appalling. This is a human rights violation of the highest order, and all fitting under the heading of it can't happen here. No, it is happening here, and it's happening now, and we have to have as much solidarity and love for the people who are being held. So I encourage everybody to check out Free Kata Now, share it with everybody that you can, and to continue to follow the story and follow the work that NDLON are doing on this. And the more information and more understanding, and, and sorry to go on so long here, Erika, but I was a little heartened by what appears to be the case from people, including people who had supported Trump recently, being appalled at the actions of ICE and the inhumanity of it. And we have to defeat this. We have to get it stopped as fast as possible. And we need just to lift the voices of so that even we have to know that Stephen Miller hears us. We have to know that Donald Trump hears us, and that this is absolutely unacceptable in anywhere in the world, but in our country right now. We have a voice on this. We're still citizens of this country, or residents. All of us need to speak up about this. So thank you for this. I don't really have a follow-up question, Erika, except maybe just even at the top of the show, and I think you only joined us later, and I spoke about the chaos of this moment where you wake up every day, and today it's the Israeli government announcing they're going to take 1 million people and forcibly remove them south in Gaza. Something the likes of which we've never seen from a U.S. ally for decades upon decades, and probably somewhere in the early Cold War there was something like that, but not in my lifetime. And then there's the Ukraine situation that's so disempowering to have to just look upon and watch. And then they're bringing the federal troops into Washington, D.C. and ICE, and all that's happening with ICE. All of a sudden, it's not center stage. just an update on this thing is expanded, like since the last time we've watched this, and your sense of just how catastrophic this is given the size of the budget, and your thoughts on what we can do then for general solidarity, we should follow, but just the scale of it in an update as if nobody had heard a headline for the last 3 weeks. What's going on in the country?
We have not seen yet the worst of what's about to come. And ICE, for those of you who might not be following this, has a bigger budget now than the military of Italy. It's the biggest law enforcement agency in the world, and in terms of their funding. So not only that, the amount of oversight they should have does not exist. There's no oversight. The things that they can do, not only to immigrants or people who are they're particularly targeting. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're not only doing it to immigrants. They're basically right now they were given a directive by Holman, their boss, to racial profile. So we are going to see, we already seen it in LA, we're already seeing in DC, but as they continue to hire, which they're hiring a ton of people. I know here in Arizona, they just had a hiring fair. They are providing, just by joining, you get a $50,000 bonus. You get your, I shouldn't be saying this because I don't want anybody else to get ideas. I'm sure this is not the crowd to get ideas, but listen, a lot of working class people who might be desperate, student loans forgiven, a huge salary. So, they are using that budget to create a much, much bigger group of ICE agents to send across the country. Plus, they're using the National Guard. The National Guard can't do what ICE is doing in terms of arresting undocumented folks or immigrants in general, but they are allowed to basically protect ICE, to show up and protect ICE agents around them. So yes, they're gonna be in our streets. They're not yet, they will be. And then the other piece here that is very concerning is that the amount of detention centers that they are opening up is much bigger than we have ever seen in the history of the US. So we're gonna end up with detention centers all over the country. They are much bigger. They are a lot more horrendous in terms of conditions, and even Congress people are not even allowed anymore to have oversight over these places. People here in Arizona, they denied the entrance of our congressional members to go in and check the conditions of some of these places. So all of that, if it doesn't ring a bell for people who have lived in authoritarian countries, I don't know what will, because this is exactly what authoritarianism is and what it's going to shape our country in the future. I'll leave it there. I sound so gloomy and it's just so scary, but I am seeing it every day with our community, and I'm sure they're going to continue to expand.
No, and thank you. No, it's perfectly articulated and a reminder that for everything else that's happening. Of course, another story that pushed everything to the margins this week was the redistricting. But the redistricting is so that, and the fight back from Democrats to win the House is so that what is happening right now has to be stopped. And it's happening right now, and it's happening in our communities, and it's absolutely appalling and unbelievable, but it's real. With that, I want to go to Stack, and you have time for a few questions, Erika? Yeah. Jim,
let's do it.
Jim, please unmute.
Yeah, hi, Erika. I just wanted to ask, with our situation here, we have DACA recipients being detained. Are the courts upholding their legal status, or are they refusing to hear the cases, or what's happening on the legal end as far as the court system?
It's a good question. at least from the cases I know, and also I'm not an attorney, and so I haven't really seen other cases right now, other than the cases that as organizations we're working with directly. From those cases, those folks have not gone to that phase yet. They're not in court yet, so they're still just detained. They will be having their court dates soon, so we're gonna find out what's gonna happen with their case. We think they might be okay as long as they don't pile on charges or things that didn't exist with that for them anymore, and now they do. So, for example, in Arizona, as some of you who live here know, let's say weed or marijuana, it's legal here in the state. So in the past, a lot of perhaps, if you were a resident or if you were a DACA recipient or someone with a work permit, if you had a license, you could just go to a dispensary like everyone else here does. There's a dispensary in every corner, and buy whatever products. So if you were stopped a few years ago and nothing happened to you, they didn't press any charges for drug possession because it's legal here in Arizona. But all of a sudden, you're a DACA recipient, you get detained, and they start looking at your record. They see that you have nothing, but somehow they realize that you had you had marijuana at some point in a traffic stop. Even though you're okay locally in the state, they will put charges on you for federal felony for possession of marijuana. It's crazy because it never used to happen, right? Like if it's legal in the state. But what I'm trying to say, the point I'm trying to make is that they will look for anything, just like they did with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. If sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, they piled on charges that they had never had. They had never had before. Same thing with DACA recipients are doing that. So what we're hoping is that with some of these cases we're seeing is that we're really hoping that they're not just trying to find and dig into their past and into anything that they've done in the past, even though they were never actually convicted of anything, just to be able to put some, what as I always say, just they're throwing all the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks for people to continue to be in detention or to be deported. But I will keep you all posted in terms of what happens with GATA, and they are exactly doing that. They're looking at her past and they're trying to find any single little thing like that, the civil disobedience actions, to say that she is quote unquote a criminal alien.
Thank you.
Thank you. And questions again for Erika. I'm going to go right now to Nina Singer. I know you put your hand up after Erika came, Nina, so please unmute, Nina.
Thank you. Oh my God, I've been biting my tongue sitting here waiting to talk to Erika about this. I'm Nina, I'm in Florida. Of course, I'm involved with legal defense rapid response here, getting involved, trying to reach out to people, reach out to businesses, handing out know your rights cards, talking to friends. People are scared. Basically, there are a lot of protests going on every day in the western communities as well as Central Florida, Orlando area. Regarding that, we're trying to shut down, we call it Alligator Auschwitz, and some other ones. And I see a lot of racial profiling. I see what people are telling me, a lot of FHP vehicles. They're pulling over everybody that's contractors, everybody with a truck, everybody landscaping trucks, trying to protect these people for no reason. Racial profiling. It's really scary as far as I have to have a judge's order, because we send a lot of people. I say, really? If you can help me with that, I'd like to be in collaboration with you in connection to somebody, how more I can do to protect the workers. And I thought DACA was protected. I guess not. That also involves the TPS protection that's being thrown out for Cubans and Haitians as well. But there's a lot of that going on. They're floating all over the county here too, just pulling over every construction vehicle they can just to make their quota. So if you can give me any insight or any assistance, It's horrible. People are scared. School just started here last week, and a lot of the communities, the kids are scared. Families are scared. A lot of these parents keeping the kids at home.
Thank you, Nina. It's the same way out here in LA. So thank you, Nina and Erika, please.
Yeah, it's horrible. But I guess what I'm hearing, the question is like, what else can people do? I will say this. One of the things we're doing at Andiola is we're training people on something that we call Adopt a Corner. It's very particular to day laborers, but there's something that you can do perhaps with other people in the community. Adopt a Corner basically means for day laborers, as some of you might have ever seen a day laborer, they gather at a Home Depot or they gather at a corner to look for work. In LA, they're some of the most vulnerable workers. They're getting targeted every single day at Home Depots. Just 2 or 3 days ago, one of the workers was killed by a truck because ICE showed up to Home Depot and he ran for his life, basically, to try to avoid getting arrested by ICE. And unfortunately, he was hit by a truck in the traffic. His name is Carlos, and it's one of those situations that we want to try to avoid as much as possible. And one way we're trying to do this, as I mentioned, is as training. We train people to adopt a corner, which is basically show up, get to know the workers. There are day labor corners all across the country in many cities, many towns. And then work with them to create a plan in case ICE shows up or CBP, so that there can be like a rapid response if something happens, that there's support for the family and for them if something was to happen. So if you're interested in that, I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and I'm happy to send you information on how to join us for some of the trainings on Adopt a Corner. And as I mentioned, some of what you learn on those trainings is also helpful for supporting community members in other areas of the community who are not necessarily just day laborers. But yeah, there's so much to do. Get connected locally, rapid response groups, nonprofits who are working and activists who are working really hard to have these rapid response and solidarity actions ready to go just in case.
Michelle Anonymous, you're up. If your question is not for Erika, just keep your hand up and we'll get to you later. But Michelle Anonymous, please unmute. Michelle. Jim, if you could unmute, please. Jim Dorencott. Yeah, I think Michelle and Jim had their hands up for a long time. Cynthia, please unmute.
Yeah, it's Michelle.
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah. I actually called earlier, put my hand up earlier because of the train thing, but I'm also very concerned about what Erika's talking about because, I grew up in Southern California back in the 50s, 60s. That came to Vegas in the 80s. And I remember that there was a lot of Mexican American presence, and it didn't seem to be a problem back then. Nobody seemed to mind as much. And then all of a sudden, there's this tendency to vilify people just, for not being white, I guess. And I just feel so bad about that. Is there, in Nevada, we're having problems too. Our campus, UNLV used to talk about being a diverse campus. I'm not sure if they're doing that anymore. So anyway, I'm supposed to stop talking, I guess.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's go to Jim, and then Erika can answer what Michelle said, and Jim. Jim, I saw you did unmute when I asked you to unmute before, so please unmute again, Jim.
Okay,
there you go.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So as a Vietnam veteran, I can't tell you how upset I am about the fact that these cops, quote unquote, do not have badges, do not have ID, et cetera, et cetera. I've also read online how many of them are private military contractors and they operate under different rules than, say, the regular ICE people. Is there anything going on in terms of the Democratic Party standing up and demanding that these police be forced to identify themselves? They don't even say what agency they're working with. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, there should be. If there's not, in fact, there's a DNC meeting coming up in Minneapolis next weekend or the week after. And I think it'd be great for somebody to put forward a resolution exactly to that point. So thank you, Jim. I'll maybe propose that to people today. Though I hope it's time you can still get resolutions in to be voted on by the body. Erika, your thoughts on what Jim and Mitch said? Yeah.
That's a really great point, and it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem of ICE agents having their face covered. One of the things that it's happening here in Arizona, which I've been really proud of, our Attorney General Chris Mays she's been so on point, like fighting ICE and all these people. And that's one of the actions she took. She put out a statement, and I believe, do not quote me on this, but I believe she has a lawsuit. I need to figure out exactly what the actual action was that she took, but she's been very outspoken about having ICE remove their face coverings. And her main point is basically, she's like, I work with police every day. I see police in the streets every day, and they don't have their faces covered. These people have no excuse to have their faces covered. That's part of the job, for at least for the police, police officers that she works with. So in her own way, I mean, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't probably say as an activist, but that she has been saying as an attorney general. So that's definitely a call to action for Democrats. As an attorney general, she might have a bit of a different angle, but I think that even if resolutions would be great. I love that idea, Ellen. Members of Congress, putting out statements, putting out letters, things like that show their opposition for these masks. And I will say, here in Arizona, there are also Republicans that are saying they don't agree with it. They just don't agree with law enforcement covering their faces, because next thing you know, cops are going to want to cover their faces too. Can you imagine having police officers and sheriffs, walk around with their faces covered? That's just something that has never happened. And ICE should not be the exception to that.
Yeah, in unmarked cars, where they pour out of the unmarked cars. I mean, there's absolutely no, for anybody experiencing that, and let's hope.
Which a little bit of hope I will
so
give.
Let's hope that doesn't.
One thing that just came to mind, just a little bit of hope, is that there are tow truck drivers who are getting organized in LA to take unmarked cars, especially if they are, covered, ICE agents with their faces covered. So anyway, I thought that was kind of just completely, it was kind of funny, and also ironic, right? That it's actually legal for a tow truck to take an ICE vehicle because they're unmarked.
Well, insane. I mean, again, there have to be rules around. I mean, God, I don't know this stuff. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, and who knows? There's, of course, undercover police agents and stuff like that. But there have to be rules that are being broken here around unmarked cars, face coverings, non-identification, etc. Obviously, the person being accosted by these fascists has no idea what's happening to them in terms of, while one does not want to be caught by ICE, it compounds the terror of the moment and can produce, dangerous flight, because you have no idea what the hell's going on. And of course, that's happening anyway in terms of the sense of danger. Dorothy, you're up, and then Melissa, then Mark, and then we'll close out and let Erika go. Dorothy, please unmute.
Yeah, so I mean, we are just in lawless times right now. Not the citizenry, but the government. We have a court order for them not to do these raids and do racial profiling. They stopped for a few days and then they started again. Boycotting Home Depot is a good idea. The workers have asked for that. The guy who owns Home Depot is a fascist already, so he's just filling in, doing what he has been doing. Big Trump supporter. In the good old days when we had a country of laws, if an officer accosted you and wanted to talk to you, you could just say, "Am I free to go?" And I don't know if that applies anywhere anymore, but those are the words that we were told to say when we were protesting, when we were doing, legal observing and whatever. If they come over, "Am I free to go?" And if they didn't say you weren't free to go, you could just walk away.
Thank you, Dorothy. Let's go to, remember what Dorothy said. Let's go to Melissa and then maybe to Mark and then Erika to answer all three of the points they raised, and then for final thoughts. Melissa, you're up.
I am a native Arizonan, and I would like to ask Erika and Dan. I know I gave you my email. How can I adopt a corner? What can I do to help?
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Erika to answer that and anything around if she wants to respond to Dorothy. Then Mark and Mary, but Mary is the last person. We're closing out the stack, so anybody who raises their hand after Mary, we're just going to be in family time. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my as soon as I'm done, I'm gonna put my email on the chat. Please send me an email so I can send you the information for the trainings for Adopt a Corner. We would love to have you and anyone else who wants to get involved. There's a lot of day labor corners here in Arizona, so yeah, we would love your help.
Yeah, and if you do want to reach Dan, it's dan@pdamerica.org, and you can just say in the subject line, "question for Erika," Erika. And then Mark Tilford, you're up, and then Mary Maloney, you're up after that.
Can you
Mark?
hear me?
Yep, I can.
Can you
Mark.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I live in Houston. I mean, I live in Fort Worth, and I used to live in Southeast Texas, and I worked all over Texas. But Erika, thank you for what you're doing. More importantly, I want to know, we've got talented, incredibly talented people that are attorneys that are Democrats, both at the Senate level as well as at the Congress level. What can they do to address these kind of issues? Because obviously this is not going to go away. It's not going to go away immediately, and it's going to get, much like you said, worse before it ever gets better.
Just to clarifying, meaning attorneys themselves or elected?
No, I'm speaking in terms of the way ICE is going about going after people that don't live in the U.S. that obviously are job sites and everywhere else where they're being picked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in terms of what people can do to be prepared, and I hope I'm understanding the question. We do advise, well, not advise, we put out general information for people to have everything ready to be prepared for anything that could happen. One way to do that is to know what their rights are, even though a lot of people's rights are violated nowadays. But it doesn't mean that they can't still verbalize things like, "I won't give you information if I have the right to remain silent. I have the right to an attorney. I have the right to see a warrant before you come into my home, or I have the right to see a warrant before you come into my job," et cetera, et cetera. So those are definitely things that we're putting out information just for people to be prepared to try to fight this. But again, they're violating people's rights. So the second thing we want to make sure people are doing is to have a plan, have a packet. A lot of families are doing this right now. Like in that packet, have the emergency contact for your lawyer, have the emergency contact for somebody who's going to pick up your belongings if you were deported, what's going to happen to your kids, what's going to happen to your dog, it's horrible things that you don't want to think about, but that it's important to have prepared, because if not, it makes it even harder for your family, it makes it even harder for you. So to think through all of the things that could go wrong, right? Just thinking about potential, like compare it to living in a place where there's hurricanes all the time, right? Like the best thing to do is to have everything prepared if there's a hurricane. right now we're living in those moments where we're asking the immigrant community to be prepared for the, you know, figuratively speaking, the hurricane that could be detention and deportation. So I don't know if I understood the question right, but that's what came to mind.
Mary Maloney, please, you're unmuted in your question for Erika.
Okay, it's more of a statement than a question. I wanted to know if she knew about Workers Over Billionaires because they have a neighborhood defense team that they started.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
It reminded me of what you were telling me about the Adopt a Foreigner. I think you would.
There's so many efforts. I encourage everyone, if you know of an effort, please join. The more the better, right? So definitely Adopt the Corners is being done by Andiola where I work, but there's also a lot of other organizations that have these kinds of trainings and that have actual like networks of rapid responders. So if you know one in your community, please join, please volunteer. And then one thing you can do without necessarily being part of anything is document if you see ICE doing anything. And honestly, at this point, I think most of us are going to end up like witnessing something at some point because they're everywhere. They're going to be everywhere. They're hiring a ton of people. So if you live in DC, there's a lot of them there. If you live in LA, if you live in Florida. So if you witness ICE arresting somebody, you have the right to record. If they go after you for recording, they're violating your rights, your constitutional rights. So as a citizen, you have the right to record. And right now, this is the way in which people in this country are seeing how immigrants are being treated. Because it's no longer just us immigrants seeing these abuses, it's everyone around the country seeing these abuses through their screens on social media. So record, ask for permission from the family, but if you have permission to post videos on social media or use those videos to be able to help the attorneys, basically show what happened in the arrest. It can be very helpful for people's cases as well. So go out there and record and have everybody be witness to the horrors that are happening with ICE in our streets.
Well, thank you so much, Erika. And just maybe final thoughts to wrap up, information about any campaigns Andiola are spearheading that you want everyone to know, and just your final thoughts for the day. And thank you so much for joining us, Erika.
Yeah, so the 2 calls to action that I talked about today. One, if you can attend a vigil for Kata, please go to the link that Dan sent. And there's also an email that went out or was going to go out with PDA. Sign the Kata petition, and it's very easy. It's freekata.com. That will take you to the petition, freekata.com. The third, I said it too, but the third is if you want to adopt the corner and to get trained on how to be an ally in solidarity with day laborers, you can shoot me an email. It's eandiola@endalon.com.org, but I'm going to put it on the chat so you all can have that information as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for always inviting me. I love PDA. I love you all. Let's keep working. Let's keep fighting. Let's do this.
Thank you for all you're doing, Erika. We're honored to have you here, and thank you. Talk to you soon.
Erika, thank you so much. Free Kata.
Thank you.
Join a protest.
Yep. John Nicolai, I apologize for not calling on you, but the staff gets on me when I say anybody whose hand comes up after I say we've closed the stack, then I go to them. I correctly get criticized for that. So I'm now trying to hold to my word, and I'll keep doing that on calls going forward. But John, you'll be first on stack if you want to be in family time, which we're going to go to in a moment. Dan O'Neill, any final thoughts?
Thank you, Alan. Only that thank everyone for sticking with us on this. It's so important. I want to thank Erika Andiola. I really encourage people to join a protest. Here in Phoenix, actually it's going to be in Tempe on Wednesday. We're going to be having a vigil in support of Casa San Diego, and I'll be there with Erika and Andalon and other organizations. PDA will be there. We already sent out an email about it. If you want to do some kind of vigil in your city, my email is in the chat. I will help you try to organize one.
Thank you so much, Dan. And PDA is, of course, involved in a lot of other things going on right now. There's a lot of national mobilizations that we're tied into. But right now, I do want to stay focused on what Erika brought to us. I want to thank Erika Andiola, who is now the political director for NDLON, the National Day Labor Organization. Freekata.com is a website where you can pick up information about the cause of the DACA recipient who is being held by ICE. And Free Kata Now on Instagram is a way to follow her posts on the subject, which I encourage everyone to do and to share that as widely as possible, folks. So again, consider adopting a corner and following on the vigils for Mobilize, or setting up a vigil yourself, and also signing the petition too. So thank you again to Erika Andiola, and I want to thank Betty Yee, who was our featured guest in the first hour of our town hall. She is a progressive candidate for the governor of California. Hartzell Gray apologizes for not being with us. He'll be here next week with a brief update, but I can assure everybody that Hartzell is going to continue his congressional campaign, even if redistricted. Again, thank especially Erika Andiola and Dan O'Neill, Mike Thaler, and Betty Yee. And stay on for family time, folks, and see you next week for another PDA Town Hall.